Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Italian Tier 9 Premium Heavy Tank, the Felice, or the Felice. But I call it the Felice because fancy, it sounds fancier. Fancier is always better, right? So if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Felice, it is the tank that is at level 100 in the Season Pass, and it's a tank that I've been playing a decent amount because, well, it's brand new. And I have thoroughly enjoyed playing this tank. I really have. I've got a full tank review already on the channel for it, but we've got two replays for you that are going to be really nice for this tank and just show it off. I have enjoyed playing this a lot. Why? Well, because the mobility is pretty nice. The gun handling is pretty good for a 127mm gun. It hits pretty hard as well, with DPM that's alright for that kind of gun as well, with decent view range. And then, add to that, you've got pretty decent turret armour as well. It's not incredible, because premium from a lot of the tier 9s and 10s can go through it, especially if you're not using your 8 degrees of gun depression. But it's enough that you can bounce a hell of a lot of shells with it, though, when it comes to bouncing a lot of the standard rounds, which is always nice. So when you go against tier 7s and 8s, you're really good against them hull down, and then even really good against the tier 9s and 10s hull down as well, as long as they are not absolutely spanking the premium rounds at you. The other thing is the shell velocity on the standard round on this tank is actually pretty good as well, which for a harder hitting gun is always something that is pretty delightful for something like the Felice. You do have to be careful with the Felice that the hull armour is a bit poo, though, that it gets penned very easily, so you do have to be careful of that in the Felice, as yeah, if you get caught out in the open and you're not in a position like we are right now using our 8 degrees of gun depression, you saw me overexpose the hull a little bit there on Live Oaks, and they just went, ha ha, lol, and penned us. So you do have to be careful of that with this vehicle. But there's just something about this vehicle that I have really enjoyed everything about it, to be honest. But yeah, there we go. So, the Felice, it has, with the setup I run, a 45km/h top speed and a 15km/h reverse speed, 900 horsepower engine, which is a 15 horsepower per ton ratio, with a 12% internal fire chance, which is on the low end of fire chances, which is pretty good. You will hit that 45km/h top speed, and if you really wanted to, you could run the traction system, which would get you up to 49km/h, and you would get there just about eventually. You have 30 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which isn't the fastest, also not the slowest. It's something that you might want to help out if it does annoy you. Ground resistances that don't particularly hold the tank back that badly. And then 512 meters of view range, which means you can spot for yourself in the Felice pretty easily, which is always nice. It means you can spot people at good distances and then get some decent assistance damage, especially on certain maps as well. And it just helps you to stay in a position where you're not getting out-spotted all that easily, which is something that can be a frustration at times. So you got 36.49 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which is faster than the tracks, which is definitely nice for the Felice. And then you got 0.69 accuracy during rotation, which is actually pretty good for this kind of gun. Not the best, but still pretty good for this kind of gun, with a 2.16 accuracy during movement, which means, and if you don't know, the accuracy during rotation and movement statistics, they do affect how accurate you're on the move, right? But that's because it affects how big your aim circle becomes while turning the tank and on the move, right? Which means it takes longer to aim in, so the worse the accuracy during movement and rotation stats are, the worse that bloom that you're seeing there would become. So that aim circle would be a lot bigger if those statistics were worse, meaning obviously you're more inaccurate on the move because the aim circle is bigger. But it generally also affects the fact that if you can get those statistics as low as possible, there's a lot less aim circle for the aim time to shrink, right? Which makes it generally a lot more accurate feeling in general, because when you do come to a position to stop to fire at someone, it just goes ready to go a lot quicker, and you can use your DPM, right? It's something that a lot of people underestimate, is how important those statistics are, accuracy during movement and rotation, which is why on a lot of vehicles it's always best just to run the gun stabilizer instead of a GLD, because that gun stabilizer will keep that aim circle smaller, whereas a GLD will only decrease the time it takes for that aim circle to get smaller, right? You know? Anyway, I digress. We've got 2.16 accuracy during movement, which isn't great, to be fair, but in combination with the rotation, it means that generally the aim circle doesn't bloom out too badly. 0.34 accuracy at 100 meters is also fairly derpy. It can be a pretty derpy gun at times, so it's something you've got to be careful of. 9.99 second reload with the build that I run, which is 2.8k nearly 2.9k DPM, which for 480 alpha isn't too bad. 256 penetration on the standard APCR, with 310 penetration on the premium heat round, and 63mm of penetration on the HE, which does do 600 damage, by the way, which is a hefty chunk of damage, especially if you pen the more lightly armoured vehicles with it. That can be pretty nice. You got 1215 meters a second shell velocity on that standard APCR round, by the way, which is very, very good, and it means that you will not have to give too much lead at distance for this gun, and say 1215 meters a second shell velocity is actually pretty good for a big gun like this. 850 meters a second shell velocity on that heat round. As you can see, it is pretty slow, so you do have to give a lot of lead at distance to make sure that those heat rounds are going to hit, and it's the same for your HE. So you've seen the amount of lead I have to give there to hit that Jagdpanzer E100. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the old Felice? Well, I do run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Track Mechanic, Rapid Aim with Advanced Loader, Gun Stabilizer and Optics. Optics to be able to get the 512 meters of view range so I can spot for myself really nicely. The Gun Stabilizer for all the reasons I stated earlier about getting that accuracy during movement and rotation down as low as possible, and that's the same reason we run all three of the gun pose, because we're making the gun generally better with the accuracy at 100 meters, and then the accuracy during movement rotation better with Snapshot and Run and Gun. And then I run Rapid Aim to make that turret traverse better, because I just like having the faster turret, because I do play this thing like a slower medium tank, because it is a heavium as opposed to being that outright brawling heavy tank. But there's plenty of things you could run on this tank instead. You could run armor angling to reduce the amount of damage coming in. You could run clutch braking to make the track traverse better. There's plenty of things you can run on this tank. It's down to you and how you feel comfortable playing the vehicle. And as you saw with that first game, we finished with the 3 kills, 6,024 damage, ace tank of the Pascuches, the Confederate, for 2,076 base XP, which we ended up with, what, 9.5k combined there? Really nice game there for the Felice on Live Oaks. And it's showing off what it can do when you get to that hull down position. You can just farm up because you can bounce stuff off that turret and then just keep slapping. Just keep slapping with this gun and have a pretty nice time. And especially when you get into that situation where we were firing at a bit further distances, that's where the Felice can be pretty good, because that shell velocity makes this gun handling just feel that little bit better, even if the statistics for it aren't the best. So we're on to the second replay. And the second replay is here on this map, which is Steppies! Steps. And on Steps, what we're doing is we're going to push down the medium tanky flank. Why are we pushing down the medium tank flank in a heavy tank? Well, it may be a better area to go brawl along the 1-2 line for any kind of heavy tank. But this line is best for medium tanks. And this tank, like I say, isn't the most outright brawly heavy tank. It's more of a hull down medium tanky heavium, right? And that's where we want to be, on this flank, brawling with the medium tanks and then using our 480 alpha to just keep slapping out the rounds. So we've pushed extremely aggressively. Why? Look at the team setup. If we don't... this is one of those things, right? If you watch your team setup and you realise there's a whole flank open on the 1-2, don't be the medium. That's my first thing, is don't be what that medium's doing at F2, where they're going, I must defend a flank even if I'm all by myself, because you'll just end up dying. Be the spearhead. And that's what we're going to do. We are being the spearhead of the attack. We get rid of these tanks quicker in front of us. That's when we can go back to defend our base if we need to, and we can really push this game on. Because what tends to happen when teams do exactly what's happened here is they lemming train and then get stuck on like 2 tanks. And then they spend most of the majority of the game trying to get rid of those 2 tanks while the enemy team sweeps up behind them and then get them caught in a crossfire and they die. So you want to be the spearhead of the attack, push aggressively because you've got the numbers, and get them moving. Get their asses moving up this flank, you know? That's what you want to be doing. So, we're up to 2.3k damage so far with 648 assistance damage, and we are really trying to get the shots in wherever we can. Anytime someone presents an opportunity to shoot them, that's what we're doing. So we've put a shot into the side of the Felice. There was a Centauro back there we do have to be careful of. Not 100% sure what Mr. Felice was doing. He just went, yes, please, kill me. And so we said, okay then, sure. So I'm waiting for the light tank to spot the Centauro up, because I'm fully expecting that Centauro to get spotted. He must be back there, right? And there he is. So we'll look for that slim shot into the side of the Italian Tier 10 auto-reloading or single shot, whichever one you pick, medium tank. But we ended up ricocheting because it does have decent armor. But we've moved ourselves into a better spot where we can get shots into his side. We do have to be careful when we poke up next to this rock, because we are exposing ourselves to the tanks at H67. And naturally, we don't want to get shot by those guys, but they are starting to fall back now because the 705A is pushing up into them on my left. So now I'm going to use the mobility of the vehicle to get to the next ridgeline, go hull down, and from there, again, block the shots on my turret, dish out this 480 Alpha. So there's the TS60. Guns out of game. It's what we need to do. Aim for the cupola on top, finish him off. Bounce the APCR around there from the IS-7. Just waiting on the reload to be able to put a shot into this T95E6's cupola. And of course, it bounces. 256 penetration off that cupola bounces. Side of the cupola too. Sure, game. I like what you've been smoking, okay? So we get a shot into the IS-7. Very sad that it didn't hit the lower plate there, but it did go wide and tracking, which is actually feeding us tracking assist, so we'll take it. We go for the track there on the E6, because I was fully expecting the T95E6 to blow up, but he ends up getting lucky and bouncing the 705A. We're going to poke over, finish off the T95E6, but no rolls, and that means we didn't quite manage to do it, although, well, we did have taken a slight high roll really to kill him, but hey-ho, hey-ho. We ended up getting a lot of tracking assist there on that IS-7, by the way. The inadvertent shot into his tracks actually fed us a lot of tracking, so we'll take it. That bit of luck, we'll take. So we're going to pressure up behind the enemy team now, because they are taking forever to push out of the 1-2 line, and they're stuck against our campers that are at a B6 and 7. So, if they're stuck there, we want to be able to get up behind them as quickly as possible. Now, that the Jagdpanzer E100 that's directly in front of us, IS-7 on the brain, you know, that Jagdpanzer E100 that's directly in front of us, we knew he'd fired, so I made sure to pull out and guarantee the shot into that guy's lower plate. We're going for that cupola shot on the Jagdpanzer, but we miss, and he looks like he's coming this way. He looks angry. He looks very angry. And thankfully for me, the T-49 manages to shut him down before his anginess comes after us and does mean things to us with a 170mm gun. We really didn't want that guy to come after us there, as that, you know, Jagdpanzer E100s, they really do be hurting with 17cm guns, you know. They really do be hurting. And thankfully, Mr. Angie Jagdpanzer E100 got shut down. So, there's only 4 tanks left on the enemy team. We're at 5.3k damage with 2.4k assist, and it's about getting there as quickly as possible so that we can farm up the damage. But these guys are pretty healthy, which is nice. So we come over, we see the 268 version 5 going for that cupola shot. Unfortunately, it goes low and hits his gun, which means we don't do any damage. We were just checking out to see what that light tank was doing, but thankfully he's not coming after us. And with the light tank going up behind the 268 version 5, he decided to turn his turret around, giving us an easy shot. We're going to ram the 268 version 5, and sadly, it wasn't enough to kill him, but the T-49 finishes him off. We shut down the Leopard there with a shot into the side, meaning there's just the light tank that's coming round on our right. Mr. G-Saw, what are you doing, son? Get out the game. Finish him off with a shot, meaning there's just the Super Conqueror left on the enemy team, and he, well, yeah, he got wrecked by the whole team. Sad times for him. I'm going to finish the game with 4 kills, 6.5k damage, nearly 2.5k assist, the 2.6k blocks, ace tanker, high caliber, the Confederate medal, with 2.2k base XP. A really great game there for the Felice, which, like I say, is a tank that I've thoroughly been enjoying playing. It really is a pretty solid tank, and yeah, what more can I say? I have thoroughly enjoyed playing it, and I just keep playing it because I go, oh, you know what, I'll play it. Yeah, I fancy the Felice, you know, I'll play it. It's just the way it's been going for me recently. I've been going, yeah, go on then, I'll play it. And for 2,000 gold, you can't really go wrong, to be fair. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
a great success.